Welcome back to Tech Take. I'm Adam Housley in Los Angeles, where news and technology collide. Even if you're not a tech person, this show is for you. If you have any questions, you can always contact us on Twitter, on Facebook, or right here on Fox News Live. Now, today we have a great comment, a great story about everything to do with smartphones and how they may be taking away your privacy. Joining us now is Eric Yaverbaum. Eric, you've joined us before. He comes to us from Social Media Mags. You can find him at The Real Yaverbaum. At Real Yaverbaum. Eric, every time we have you on, I always have to look down at your Twitter handle. For some reason, I can never read it correctly.
Yeah, you know what? If my first one hadn't been hacked, I would say it would be easy, but my last name's still hard to spell.
Right. Well, we have it up on the screen so people can actually follow you on Twitter. Good information, and I think this is really important, especially with all that's coming out today in news, and for that matter, the last couple of weeks with the NSA. Now we know a lot of smartphones from foreign leaders have been watched. But, you know, you go back to our own smartphones. We're traveling around. As one of my friends in one of the agencies told me about a month ago, you know, Adam, you can turn your phone off. You can take your battery out. We can still access the microphone. We can still access the camera. And we know what time you get up and what time you go to work because they obviously ping as you make your way down Santa Monica Boulevard or however you happen to commute. That's disturbing alone, but there's a lot of things going on now with these new smartphones that I know you can talk about in regards to our loss of privacy.
Well, you know, it's really up to, it's your choice. What do you want to do? How much do you want to give up? I mean, you know, I resist the fingerprint. I don't want to give my fingerprints out. You know, that said, a majority of people, you know, at least on the iPhone, they don't use the security. They don't use the 4-digit security. They don't do it, which means that, you know, the neighborhood pickpocket can really easily get your phone and everything that's in it. And you may think that that's not such a big deal, but in New York City alone, the crime rate went up just from people that were stealing iPhones. So it's not irrelevant, but you know, the fingerprint and going forward, the fingerprint, whether you want to give it up or not, it's going to be used for a lot of things, and we're all into immediacy. We don't want to have to type a lot of things to do things. We want stuff quick. Fingerprint makes it quick. It's not just for your iPhone. It can be for Facebook. You can purchase things on, you know, iTunes. You can do all sorts of stuff with your fingerprint if you're willing to give it up.
Right, and for those who may not be totally tech savvy, when you're talking about fingerprint, you're talking about the new iPhone, which has been a hit where you basically, I have the other iPhone, the iPhone 5 without the fingerprint technology, but basically your finger allows the person the owner to get on, and potentially other people could use different ways as well. And I guess the concern is you're giving up your fingerprint there. You have other apps on these phones that pictures, all your passwords can be under one thing. You know, you can take photos of your checks and access all your bank accounts. I mean, basically, your life is now on this device.
That's right.
And no matter how much you protect it, it can be accessed.
Yeah, and one of the problems has become, for all of us, even if we're not tech savvy, even if we're not into, you know, anything tech, you know, most of us have some device. We can't remember all of our passwords. We've got a different password for everything. Everything has to have a capital letter, a number. There's a million different criterias for it. And how do you remember all your passwords? Well, you probably store them on a piece of paper inside your computer, the same computer that can easily get hacked. Now, look, this is a fact. The NSA probably can get into your computer no matter what, any old time they want. There's a trap door, there's a back door, they can access it. That's just a fact. It's, the more the Edward Snowden materials come out, the more the NSA materials come out, you can just see clearly that that's a fact. What isn't a fact, though, is what about the neighborhood pickpocket? What about the guy in your neighborhood who can hack into your wireless system? And who do you want to protect yourself against now, the NSA or the neighborhood pickpocket? And I think the neighborhood pickpocket is probably less of a threat, but everybody ought to know that, with the new processor in the new iPhone, the M7, this phone, basically, it tracks everything. It tracks whether you're running or walking, which is great if you're into fitness and you have a fitness app, but otherwise, your phone is basically a complete window into every single solitary thing that you do forever, and it stays there forever.
Right, Eric, and here's my concern with that. We've been told by the government, oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. That's complete baloney. We know it. They're using semantics. So the fact of the matter is, whether you're using the new iPhone with the new operating system or a BlackBerry, you know, assuming they're still around, even though I love my BlackBerry, or one of the other smartphones out there, the fact is they can access this stuff at any time, and it takes very little ability for them to do it. It's very easy for them to do it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that comes down to the only way to protect yourself is to get rid of it, right?
Yeah, but we're not going to do that. We're all going to buy more smartphones. I mean, there's a small percentage of the country that are, quote unquote, resistors. I mean, it's part of Facebook's business plan. They need to convert the resistors to use technology, but it's a small percentage. I mean, and as you shift down the generations, you'll see the percentage gets less and less and less and less. I mean, the only thing smarter than a 20-year-old is a 10-year-old. The only thing, faster and smarter than a 10-year-old is a 5-year-old, and that's just the way it is. Kids are born digital now, and we're into our third decade now of people being born digital. So we're not going to get rid of our smartphones. We're not going to stop using our computers. We're going to use more of them, and it will mean that our privacy is, up for grabs. How much up for grabs? That's up to you.
I guess the only way, as you mentioned, people aren't going to get rid of their smartphones. These things are, I mean, they're so enveloped into our lives. There's so many ways we can use these. They're so helpful, really, in so many ways. I mean, you never get lost anymore unless there's some sort of address that's screwed up on the actual system, which doesn't happen very often. I mean, these things really answer a lot of questions and make life a lot easier for a lot of people. So I guess it comes down to this. The only way really to fight back is if a grand majority of people stood up and went to the NSA, or I can't go to the NSA, but went to the government and said, we demand more security, we demand more privacy, we demand that we have our rights back. But is that even possible? Is that even going to happen?
Pandora's box, it's already opened. I mean, we're not getting it back. We can ask all we want, we can demand all we want, we can pretend like we have it, but we don't. There's not a single solitary person in this country right now that has a smartphone that's walking around with it that can't simply be tracked, traced, and recorded forever. It just is. It doesn't matter. Uprise all you want. It's not going to change anything. So now you have to deal with the fact of how much privacy do you want to protect? And that really is up to you. You opt in all day long for stuff.
Yeah, and I'm cutting you off because I want you to touch on this point before it's too late, before we have to go. That is, you can check out. I can take these things and check them outside and throw them away in the garbage can.
Yeah.
And they'd be taken out to the garbage dump, and they're nowhere near me ever again. So they can't track my movements, whether I'm running or I'm walking. But my car has a computer. There's a story this week that we're going to be looking into, the fact that hackers are now hacking into refrigerators and washers and dryers. Basically, no matter what you want to do, whether you think getting rid of your smartphone is going to give you privacy, it's not, because you're being tracked everywhere.
That's right. Look, I mean, you just heard last week that former Vice President Dick Cheney was nervous about his pacemaker because it's operated by technology, that somebody could hack that technology and give him a heart attack. And I mean, that's right out of Homeland, the HBO series. Because it's possible. I mean, in that particular case, you got to wave a wand over something else, so someone would have to actually get in the hospital. But yeah, I mean, by the way, I would never throw out your smartphone. I would make sure that phone is completely cleared, or just keep it in a safe for the rest of your life if you want your stuff private.
Yeah, because that stuff is still on there. It's imprinted on there. You can delete it all you want to, but a lot of that stuff can still be found and still be accessed, even if you think you've deleted your phone. Eric Yaverbaum, we always appreciate you coming on, associate publisher of Social Media Magazine. You can find him at ericopr.com. It's ERICHOPR.com. That's where you can find him on the web. And we always appreciate you coming on here. Also on Twitter at The Real Yaverbaum. I'm going to spell this right. Yaverbaum.
Now, my mother will really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Then I spelled it correctly. Well, Adam's kind of easy, so it's always nice to help someone else out. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, that's this segment of Tech Take. Watch us on other Tech Takes. If you have questions, you can always find us right here on FoxNews.com. You also can find us on Twitter and Facebook. Send us your suggestions, and stay tuned for the next Tech Take.